Have you ever wondered why some parents enjoy a close, fulfilling relationship with their children as they grow older, while others feel neglected or forgotten? What makes the difference between a supportive family bond and one that falls apart? If you're facing challenges in your relationship with your children or are simply curious about what truly nurtures a lasting connection, this video is for you. In this video, we'll explore crucial insights into how to build and maintain healthy parent-child relationships as we grow older. Whether you're a parent looking to strengthen your bond with your children or someone wanting to understand what makes certain relationships thrive, we'll dive deep into the factors that influence this dynamic. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Episode 1. Happy Parent-Child Time Together. Every summer, without fail, the Tanaka family embarks on their beloved tradition of visiting a hot spring together. This annual trip is not just a simple getaway. It's a symbol of the deep love and respect that binds them as a family. Despite the hectic lives of the children, who juggle their demanding careers and personal commitments, they always carve out time to plan this special retreat, ensuring their parents can enjoy the peaceful serenity of the hot springs. It's a moment for the Tanakas to unwind, laugh, and remember the importance of family, no matter how much time passes or how busy life becomes. As they prepare to depart, the Tanaka couple, now older and a little slower, exchange warm, grateful smiles. They know the significance of this trip, and their hearts swell with appreciation. "Thank you for everything," they say to their children, their voices thick with emotion. These words are not just a casual thank you. They are a lifetime's worth of gratitude for the sacrifices, love, and care they have given over the years. Their daughter, now a grown woman with a life of her own, smiles softly in response. There's a hint of nostalgia in her eyes as she recalls the many memories her parents created for her and her siblings during their childhood. "You made so many beautiful memories for us when we were kids," she says, her voice full of affection and tenderness. "Now, it's our turn to repay you." In this simple, yet profound moment, the cycle of love is palpable. What was once given freely by the parents is now being returned by their children, who are eager to express their gratitude and love in the same way. The Tanakas are overcome with emotion, realizing that the love they have poured into their children's lives has come full circle. It's a love that never truly fades. It evolves, it strengthens, and it blossoms in the hearts of those who were once the recipients. In that moment, the parents feel not only the joy of being cared for, but also the fulfillment of knowing their love has been passed on and is now being returned tenfold. It's a beautiful, heartwarming reminder that family is not just about shared moments. It's about enduring love that transcends time and generations. For me, this scene truly touches my heart because it captures the essence of family. How love is not one-sided, but a continuous exchange that nourishes and sustains us through all seasons of life. It's these little, intimate moments that remind us of what really matters, and how much we owe to those who have shaped us. Family, in its truest sense, is a circle of giving and receiving, and this episode embodies that so perfectly. Episode 2. Lonely Parents Feeling Abandoned. On the other hand, there is Mr. Sato, a 70-year-old man who has spent the majority of his life working tirelessly to build a family, to raise his children, and to give them the best life he could. Today, he finds himself alone in his modest house, surrounded by the ghosts of memories. His children, each of whom has their own family and responsibilities, have become distant over the years, almost like strangers. The love he once felt from them has slowly faded into the background of their busy lives. Mr. Sato, who spent countless nights sacrificing his happiness for the sake of his children, now faces the harsh reality of isolation. One cold winter's day, Mr. Sato fell ill. The fever left him weak and drained, but his concern was not for his health. It was for the fear that, if something happened to him, no one would be there to care. Desperately, he reached for his phone, hoping that his children would come to his side as they had when they were younger. His trembling hands dialed their numbers, one by one, but the calls went unanswered. The silence on the other end was deafening. Why won't they even pick up the phone? Why do I feel so invisible to them? He thought, heartbroken. After years of offering unconditional love and support, he was met with a cold, empty silence. As he lay in bed, weak and in pain, Mr. Sato couldn't help but reflect on the life he had lived. He had given everything, his time, his energy, his love, only to be met with indifference. I raised them with so much love, I worked day and night to give them everything they needed, and yet, they don't even take a moment to check on me, he thought bitterly. His love, his sacrifices, his care, everything seemed to have been in vain. The heartache he felt at that moment was not just physical. It was emotional, a deep wound that had been slowly opening for years but now felt unbearably raw. The emptiness Mr. Sato felt was not just the absence of his children in his home, it was the absence of love and connection. The laughter, the visits, and the simple check-ins that once filled his life had been replaced with long, lonely days. He sat in his living room, staring out the window at the world passing by, wondering if he had been forgotten, if the love he had once given so freely had been erased from his children's hearts. Each day seemed like an eternity as he awaited a call that never came. Mr. Sato's heart ached not for the lack of material things, but for the lack of emotional connection, for the loneliness that enveloped him like a thick fog. This situation, as painful as it is far from unique. There are countless parents like Mr. Sato, who gave their all to raise their children, only to be left alone in their later years, feeling abandoned and forgotten. The sacrifices made, the sleepless nights, the years of hard work, all of it seems to fade into the background as their children move on with their own lives, too busy to spare a moment for the very people who gave them everything. It's a tragic reality that many older parents face, and it's something we should all be deeply concerned about. Why does this happen? How is it possible that, despite all the love and effort, parents end up alone, feeling like they are no longer needed? The answer is complex, but it often boils down to a lack of communication, a growing disconnect between generations, and the pressures of modern life. As children grow older and build their own families, it can be easy to forget the sacrifices made by the generation that raised them. Life gets busy, priorities change, and sometimes the elderly are left behind. But does that make it right? Is it fair for parents to give so much and receive so little in return, especially when they need love and support the most? This painful reality brings us to an important question. How can we build a relationship with our children that ensures we won't be forgotten when we are older? How can we ensure that we are not abandoned in our twilight years, left to navigate the world alone? It's a question that all of us, as parents, should ask ourselves. Mr. Sato's story is not just his alone. It is the story of many parents who feel the sting of neglect and the ache of being forgotten. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Perhaps the answer lies in the way we raise our children. Not just in terms of providing for their physical needs, but in nurturing emotional bonds that will last throughout their lives. We need to teach our children not just how to succeed in the world, but how to care for those who have loved and cared for them. It is vital to build a foundation of mutual respect, love, and communication that can withstand the tests of time. So, how do we ensure that we won't fall into the same trap as Mr. Sato? How do we create lasting memories with our children that will keep us close even when we are no longer physically strong and when we can no longer offer material things? It starts with love, yes, but it also requires intentional effort. We need to prioritize our relationships with our children, even when life gets busy. We need to make time for them, to check in on them, and, in return, we need to teach them the importance of doing the same for us when the roles reverse. In the end, it's not the material wealth or the possessions we leave behind that will matter the most. It's the love we gave, the bonds we created, and the memories we shared. If we can nurture these, perhaps we can avoid the loneliness that so many older parents face. Let's take a lesson from Mr. Sato's heartbreaking situation and reflect on how we, too, can build relationships with our children that will endure through the years. It's a responsibility we all must bear, one that will shape the way we experience our later years and how our children will remember us. Let's ensure that we are never forgotten, even as we grow older. 1. Do not force parent-child obligations. The notion that children should feel obliged to repay their parents is not only unhealthy but also deeply dangerous. It turns a relationship that should be rooted in love, care, and understanding into a cold, transactional exchange. Let me share with you a poignant story about Mrs. Yamaguchi, a woman who worked tirelessly, day in and day out, sacrificing her comfort and well-being to provide the best education for her son. She dreamt of seeing him succeed at a prestigious university, believing that this would be the fulfillment of her sacrifices. However, after her son married and moved out to build his own life, Mrs. Yamaguchi, unable to let go, began calling him incessantly, demanding that he pay her back for all the years she had invested in his upbringing by spending more time with her. Her son, burdened by his responsibilities and his need to build his own family, responded with a heavy heart, saying, "I have my own family now, and I'm tired of hearing these demands." His words cut through the air with an overwhelming sense of sorrow and regret, not just from the son who felt trapped, but from the mother whose expectations had grown into an unspoken demand. Mrs. Yamaguchi's situation is heartbreaking, but it also serves as a crucial lesson for all of us. The parent-child relationship should never be reduced to a transaction, a contract where one expects repayment for love and care. Raising children should never be viewed as an investment with the expectation of future returns. It's an act of unconditional love, driven by the hope of seeing your child grow up to be a kind, responsible, and happy individual, not by the selfish desire to receive something in return. Had Mrs. Yamaguchi been able to show her son the depth of her love without attaching conditions or expectations, perhaps their relationship would have been filled with warmth, respect, and mutual understanding, instead of the painful rift that formed between them. Parents who didn't always provide the best care for their children while they were growing up may feel a deep sense of regret as they age, often attaching unrealistic expectations to their children as a way to make up for their past mistakes. The mindset of "I raised you, now you owe me" is one rooted in self-interest and can place an unbearable emotional burden on the child, forcing them into a situation where they feel they can never do enough to satisfy their parents. In contrast, parents who have supported their children with love and guidance throughout their lives do not need any repayment. Their greatest desire is not to be paid back in material terms, but simply to see their children happy, healthy, and thriving. That's the essence of unconditional love, to give without expecting anything in return. Raising children is not a transaction. It's a profound act of selflessness, a gift given freely, with the only reward being the joy of watching them flourish. The belief that "I raised you, now you owe me" is not just an unfair assumption. It's a distortion of love itself. Children are not commodities or debts to be repaid. They are human beings, deserving of love, respect, and freedom. The foundation of a strong parent-child relationship must be built on love, trust, and mutual respect, not on obligation or guilt. Let's remember that when we give with open hearts, free from the expectation of return. 2. Do not discriminate between children. True love in a family is built on fairness and equality, and it is this fairness that lays the foundation for strong, lasting relationships between parents and children. Unfortunately, in some families, love is not always distributed equally, and this can leave deep emotional scars. I once knew of a family where the parents devoted so much of their time, energy, and financial resources to their eldest son. They paid for his education, bought him a car, and hosted an extravagant wedding to celebrate his success. However, the younger son was barely given any support. His education was neglected, his needs overlooked, and his dreams not nurtured. Over time, a painful distance grew between the younger son and his parents, as he felt unloved and unimportant. But it didn't end there. The eldest son, too, began to pull away, weighed down by the overwhelming expectations placed on him. He felt trapped by the constant pressure to live up to his parents' sacrifices, his every move scrutinized and judged. This story illustrates the power of perceived discrimination. Even when parents may believe they are offering equal love to all their children, if the children themselves feel differently, then the bond is compromised. Parents must step back and look at their actions through their children's eyes. Love cannot be measured by grand gestures for one child while another is left to fend for themselves. That sense of fairness, or the lack of it, echoes through the very core of family dynamics. When children feel they are not being treated equally, resentment builds, trust crumbles, and the sense of familial love disintegrates. The damage done is often irreversible, leading to strained relationships that can fester for years. Discrimination, whether intentional or not, can manifest in subtle ways. Perhaps the eldest child is always the center of attention, showered with praise and privileges, while others are left to compete for the smallest scraps of attention and affection. This divide can erode the emotional connection between siblings, and over time, the family unit becomes fractured. The younger children may feel neglected or even resentful, while the eldest may struggle with the weight of unreasonable expectations. The emotional toll of such inequality is immense. It's heartbreaking to think that something as simple as fairness could mean the difference between love and alienation, between unity and division. Another tragic consequence of favoritism is the lasting impact it has on family bonds, especially when it comes to inheritance. If assets are divided unfairly, it can tear a family apart. It's a painful reminder that the bonds of love, once broken, are difficult to repair. The children, instead of supporting each other, are left in conflict, each one feeling cheated or overlooked. The emotional scars left by such injustice often run deep, affecting not only the parent-child relationship but the sibling bonds as well. This kind of emotional damage can remain with individuals throughout their lives, influencing their relationships and how they view fairness in the world. Ultimately, the key to a harmonious family is equal love, respect, and consideration for all children, regardless of their age, gender, or position in the family hierarchy. Showing your children that they are equally valued and that their feelings matter just as much as their siblings is the first step toward building a relationship based on trust. When we fail to treat our children with fairness, we risk losing not only their love but also the very essence of what makes a family strong: unity and mutual support. To truly build lasting trust and a deep connection, we must remember that love is not just a feeling. It is an action, a choice that requires ongoing effort and consideration. Fairness, then, is not just important, it is essential to the emotional well-being of our children and the family as a whole. 3. Do not vent emotions on children. It is crucial to remember that children should never be seen as emotional dumping grounds. When parents project their struggles, anger, or loneliness onto their children, they risk damaging the very foundation of their relationship. Take Mr. Saito, for instance. In his 60s, having recently retired, he found himself grappling with an overwhelming sense of loneliness. Unable to cope with this newfound isolation, he began calling his children incessantly, using them as a sounding board for his frustrations. His complaints grew bitter and repetitive. "You don't care about me." At first, his son, moved by his father's vulnerability, would listen and offer comfort. But over time, the constant barrage of negative emotions began to take its toll. What started as a genuine attempt to care quickly turned into avoidance. The son began to distance himself from these calls, no longer able to bear the weight of his father's emotional outpouring. In the end, this emotional dependence not only strained their relationship but created an insurmountable distance between them. This is the unfortunate reality for many parent-child relationships, where emotions are weaponized instead of being nurtured. Rather than using children as an outlet for emotional release, parents, like Mr. Saito, should have found healthier ways to deal with their feelings. Perhaps through hobbies, socializing with peers, or even joining community groups, Mr. Saito could have alleviated his loneliness without burdening his children. Children, naturally, should never be expected to bear the weight of adult anxieties, especially those they are too young or unprepared to handle. When parents consistently vent their anger or frustrations on their children, The children can slowly start to see their parents not as sources of comfort and love but as emotional garbage cans to unload negativity onto. The more a parent vents, the more their child might feel overwhelmed, disrespected, or even resentful. Over time, these emotional outbursts erode the trust, affection, and understanding that are so vital to a healthy relationship. Let's not forget that being financially poor does not equate to being a bad parent. Many parents who face economic hardships do so with love, dedication, and sacrifice. However, emotional poverty, the inability or unwillingness to offer emotional support and understanding, can leave children feeling isolated and unsupported. Emotional abuse in any form is a heavy burden to carry, and unfortunately, children often feel the brunt of this burden. Parents must learn to manage their emotions responsibly. They should never use their children as emotional crutches, nor should they place their unresolved issues in their children's laps. The truth is, a parent's role is to provide love, security, and guidance, not to constantly unload personal frustrations. While it's natural for everyone to feel overwhelmed at times, parents must find ways to manage their emotions, so that they can foster a safe, nurturing environment where their children feel valued, not burdened. It is essential to remember that children are not responsible for their parents' happiness, and parents who can't find healthy outlets for their emotions should seek help, whether through therapy, counseling, or simply taking time for self-care. Ultimately, it is the parents' responsibility to protect their children from emotional harm, not to weigh them down with it. 4. Do not solve all of your children's problems. As parents, one of the most difficult lessons to learn is that sometimes we must step back and allow our children to face their challenges. It's so tempting to step in and fix things for them, especially when we see them struggling or suffering. But in doing so, we risk robbing them of the opportunities to grow, learn, and build the resilience they will need to navigate life on their own. It's natural to want to protect our children from pain, disappointment, and hardship. After all, we want the best for them and wish to shield them from the difficulties we may have experienced ourselves. But in the long run, this protective instinct can be damaging. It prevents our children from developing the skills necessary to tackle life's inevitable challenges. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Take, for example, the story of Mrs. Cato and her teenage daughter. One day, her daughter came home from work, visibly upset, telling her mother that her boss had scolded her in front of her colleagues. She felt humiliated and unsure of what to do next. Mrs. Cato, wanting to ease her daughter's pain, immediately took action. Without even fully understanding the situation, she contacted the boss and asked them to reconsider their judgment, claiming that her daughter was not at fault. Her intentions were good. She only wanted to protect her daughter. But what happened next was truly revealing. Instead of helping her daughter grow from the experience, Mrs. Cato's actions only pushed her daughter further away from understanding how to handle conflict. The young girl, feeling like there was no place for her in the company and that the situation was beyond her control, ultimately decided to quit her job. What an unfortunate outcome. What this story teaches us is that by solving problems for our children, we may unintentionally be robbing them of valuable life lessons. While Mrs. Cato's intervention was motivated by love and a desire to protect her daughter, it ultimately undermined her daughter's ability to navigate workplace challenges. Instead of learning how to handle a difficult situation, how to address a conflict with her boss, or how to assert herself, her daughter chose the easier route of quitting. She missed out on an opportunity for growth, and in the long run, it could have a lasting impact on her self-esteem and sense of self-worth. We often forget that the real role of a parent is not to act as a superhero who swoops in and solves all the problems. Our job is to guide our children, to help them learn how to think critically and handle life's difficulties. This process can be painful to watch, but it is necessary for their development. Imagine if we never allowed children to try to do something on their own, never gave them the chance to fail and then pick themselves back up again. They would grow up incapable of facing life's inevitable challenges, always relying on others to fix things for them. Instead of giving them fish to eat, we should teach them how to fish. This means teaching our children problem-solving skills, helping them understand the value of persistence, and encouraging them to believe in their abilities. We must allow them to face the consequences of their actions, whether they succeed or fail. Only then can they build the confidence to face the future with resilience. When we intervene in every little problem, we inadvertently teach our children to depend on us or others for every decision. This creates a dangerous cycle, where they never fully develop the self-reliance necessary to thrive as adults. Even as they grow older, they may struggle to take responsibility for their actions or solve problems without seeking validation from others. I've seen it happen too many times. Adults who are perfectly capable but who still look to their parents or partners for reassurance at every turn. Let's also remember that life is full of difficulties and setbacks. It's in these moments of adversity that character is built. How we handle disappointment, failure, and struggle ultimately defines who we become. As parents, we must allow our children the space to experience these difficult moments. We shouldn't remove the obstacles, but instead, we should teach them how to navigate through them with dignity and perseverance. I remember when my child faced a difficult challenge, something seemingly small, like not being invited to a friend's birthday party. As a parent, I wanted to comfort them immediately and call the other child's parents to inquire why they weren't included. But instead, I took a step back. I asked my child how they felt, helped them express their emotions, and encouraged them to understand that life isn't always fair, but it doesn't mean they're not loved or valued. We talked about how they could handle the situation with grace, how to show kindness despite feeling hurt, and how sometimes these small disappointments are part of life's bigger picture. It was difficult to watch my child hurt, but I knew it was an essential lesson. By allowing them to experience that disappointment and supporting them through it, I was teaching them a lifelong skill: how to manage their emotions and rise above challenges. In the end, the greatest gift we can give our children is the ability to handle life's difficulties on their own. By stepping back, we give them the tools to become strong, independent, and confident adults. Yes, they will face hardship. Yes, they will fail sometimes. But they will also learn from those experiences, and they will carry those lessons with them into the future. As parents, we must trust our children. We must believe in their ability to handle challenges, even if it means they will struggle or face discomfort along the way. It's in those very struggles that they will grow into the people they are meant to become. Let's allow them the space to do so, and let's provide the guidance they need to face life's obstacles with courage and wisdom. After all, the best way to prepare our children for the world is not to shelter them from it, but to help them learn how to navigate it on their own. 5. Be independent and not rely on children. Independence is not just a luxury, it is an essential part of living a fulfilling and dignified life, especially as we grow older. Parents who maintain their independence not only preserve their sense of self-worth, but also earn the deep respect of their children. In many ways, it is the most profound gift a parent can offer: to show their children that they are capable of standing on their own, both emotionally and physically, without burdening them with excessive reliance. It's the kind of independence that not only enriches the life of the individual but also fortifies the relationship with their children, allowing it to thrive on mutual respect and affection, rather than duty and obligation. One beautiful example of such independence is Ms. Yoshida, a woman in her 70s who embodies the essence of living life on her terms. She is not a woman defined by her age or her responsibilities as a mother. Rather, she is defined by her passions and the joy she finds in her pursuits. For Ms. Yoshida, the art of flower arranging is not just a hobby, but a source of peace, creativity, and personal fulfillment. Despite her children having long since married and moved on with their own lives, she remains unapologetically dedicated to her happiness, choosing not to let her role as a mother overshadow her identity as an individual. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Her mantra, "If anything happens, just let me know," is a powerful statement of self-sufficiency. She does not expect or demand her children's constant attention, nor does she look to them to fill the voids in her life. Instead, She continues to live with a quiet but unwavering confidence, finding joy in the things that bring her fulfillment. It is this sense of inner strength and personal happiness that makes her not just a mother, but a beacon of inspiration. Her children, even as they have grown and built their own families, continue to look up to her, not just for the love and care she gave them when they were young, but for the example she sets as an independent, self-sustaining woman. Her son, in particular, speaks with such admiration when he says, "When I see my mom enjoying herself, I feel reassured and can work hard." These words, though simple, carry an emotional weight that many of us can relate to. There's something deeply comforting in knowing that the person who once took care of you is now taking care of herself. It offers a sense of reassurance and peace of mind, which is invaluable to a child, especially as they embark on their life journey. When children witness their parents' contentment and independence, it provides them with emotional stability that empowers them to focus on their own lives and responsibilities without the constant worry of being their parents' emotional or physical caretakers. I believe that it is this very independence that strengthens family bonds in unexpected ways. A parent who can take care of themselves is not a source of guilt or anxiety for their children. Instead, they become a source of admiration and inspiration. When parents live life fully and joyfully, their children are motivated to do the same. They no longer feel the heavy weight of being solely responsible for their parents' happiness or well-being. This freedom allows both the parents and the children to pursue their individual lives and ambitions without resentment or burnout. For me, the lesson here is clear. True love and care for one's children is not about being constantly available or seeking emotional fulfillment from them. It is about being strong and self-sufficient so that your children can see you as a role model for living life with dignity, joy, and passion, regardless of the circumstances. In this way, independence is not just an act of self-preservation, it is an act of love. It's a profound way of teaching children that they, too, can live their own lives with freedom and confidence, without feeling burdened by the emotional weight of constantly having to care for others. Furthermore, this type of independence doesn't just apply to older parents, but to all of us, regardless of age. The ability to take care of oneself, nurture one's passions, and find fulfillment outside of family obligations is something that everyone should strive for. It's a reminder that our worth is not solely tied to our roles within a family or society, but rather to our ability to live authentically and to love ourselves as much as we love others. So, what have we learned from Ms. Yoshida's story today? We've seen how independence is not only a personal strength, but also a gift that nurtures respect and love in our relationships with others, especially with our children. It's about finding fulfillment in our own passions and living a life that is authentic and self-sustaining, regardless of age. Independence isn't about being alone. It's about being strong, self-reliant, and creating a life that others can look up to and learn from. Now, I want to hear from you. What is one thing you've learned from this video that you'll bring into practice in your own life? Maybe it's the importance of nurturing your passions, or how to live with more confidence and self-reliance. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you more insightful content. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to reading your comments. See you in the next video.